Before we go to the questions, Peter will give us a short introduction in his ideas about this thematic or this topic about responsibility.
Thank you for the privilege to be here and to share some ideas and discussions with you about this impossible topic. Because when I was young, I said it is a typical sign that somebody becomes an old idiot when he starts to speak about moral and responsibility. And you see, I was right. Now I'm old and speak about responsibility. But maybe I find a way to speak differently about responsibility in society and in art that is normally the case, and maybe with some new information for you. The topic of responsibility in the 20th century started with the enormous success of German export. You know, Germany is a very important export country, and people think when they ask them what is the most famous export of Germany, some people would say maybe Wagner, or maybe Mercedes, etc. Yeah? But in fact, the most successful export of Germany is a kind of society, an organization of a society, which was founded in Germany in 1892. And now it is a worldwide model. This model is called GmbH, Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung. So it means society with limited responsibility. This is the point. So, at the beginning of the 20th century, we organized that everything which has to do with business has no consequences, because if you are a member of such a GmbH, you can say, you see, I'm not responsible. It's even on the title of my company, limited responsibility. Yeah? But this was a wonderful seductive model, so everybody in the next decades did the same. Yeah? So now it's a whole world, and it would even say the whole society has taken this model and says we are not responsible. Because the next step is called Aktiengesellschaft, shareholder. And as you know, the shareholders are anonymous. So when there's a problem, you don't find them because they don't have any limits, they are anonymous. So this was the next step. Is a degree of relative, non-existent responsibility. This was not enough, because the problem of today, I come to this later, today we have to do with much more money than even before. Now, as you know, we have billions of exchange of monies every second, virtual money, only with computers, algorithms. And therefore we have a new company organization of irresponsibility, which is called hedge fund. Because English, hedge means in English to minimize a risk, to minimize your responsibility. So we have three steps. Society of limited responsibility, shareholder, activity, and then hedge funds. And now comes an interesting point in the history of art. I hope these three models, since I have only about 20 minutes, I cannot explain all the details, but these are very interesting models. Anonymity and no responsibility. And now in art, we think that the Museum of Modern Art, founded in 1929 in New York by Alfred H. Barr, was the first Museum of Modern Art. But that is not true. The first Museum of Modern Art with the title to be an experimental Museum of Modern Art was founded in 1920 by two artists, Man Ray and Duchamp, and the collector, millionaire Catherine Dreyer. Yeah? And Catherine Dreyer wanted to call the museum the modern art, like the art lower. A museum has a duty to be responsible, you see, for the works it collects. Collection means nothing else than to take care of works that do not disappear. So every private or public collector has one duty, one responsibility to take care of the work of art, which he selects, like Art Schnoor was a principle of selection. As you know, in the Art Schnoor, there was only a family allowed, not mankind at all. It was a very strong Darwinistic principle, only the family of Noah, his sons and his wives, and then a lot of animals. But it was about selection. Okay, so we do the same. We have an arch with the collectors, the public or private collection, we collect, we end like an arch, and then the reason is that we try to prevent that works disappear. So we have, the arch means a certain responsibility. And now Kaiser III was right to call the museum arch, the modern arch. But then Duchamp, he made an interesting joke. And he called the museum, the first museum modern, he called it Société Anonyme. That means shareholder company. So he did the same, like economics. So from the beginning, in the art system, it was clear we don't want to have responsibility. Unfortunately, nature can say it was a joke by a Dadaist. The joke was understood by Man Ray, etc. was an American who did not know very well French, so he was thinking, that sounds nice. Société Anonyme. Anonymous society is like conspiracy. We are anonymous, like today, and we have a conspiracy to support modern art. So he accepted the title because he was too stupid to understand the economic dimension. But not enough. The first museum was not only called Société Anonyme, which is precisely the French expression for Aktiengesellschaft, because the members of Aktiengesellschaft are anonymous. He even called it what we call a linguistics pleonasm. So when you speak about white milk, it is clear that milk is white, it is clear that snow is white. So when you say white snow and white milk, it's a kind of nonsense. So he called it Société Anonyme Incorporated. To make it very clear, this is a company of unlimited responsibility. So from the beginning, it was clear that one part of art, what we call today the market, is precisely this, to not take care of the work of art. So from the beginning, in the 20th century, the art system was somehow poisoned by this question of responsibility, because the first museum was called Museum of Limited Responsibility Incorporated, right? This has to be aware. The next point is, how could we define responsibility in a modern way? Not in a moral way, not in an ethical way. My model would be a thermodynamic model. Responsibility is mainly about the effects what your actions will have. So you do something, this is a cause, for example, you drive drunk, and then you make a mistake, and then you kill somebody driving drunk. So then you would say, okay, now comes up the question, who is responsible? The person who was drunk or the driver. In Austria, the question is very clear by the law, it's always the person who was drunk, not the driver. This is for sure. Even when you do in Austrian law, when you do some sexual cruelty to children, then it's very clear it was the children who seduced the adult, not the adult and children. This is practiced in Austrian law. But you see, the problem is precisely there's a cause, there's an effect. You do something, and something happens. Therefore, in the Bible, there was a small idea in the Bible to say you should judge the people after their deeds, after their actions. This was not very clever, but it had an idea, intuition to say something people will do, and we have to judge them not after their words, what they promise, we have to judge them after that what they do. We could apply this law today to President Obama. He has wonderful words, but he doesn't do what he speaks about, as you know. Okay, so the point is, thermodynamics is about the laws of cause and effect. And normally in thermodynamics is clear, when there's a cause, there's an effect. And the sequence is precisely this. First the cause, and then the effect. And the effect is a consequence, out of the word, of the cause. Each cause has a consequence, which is the effect. And now, this is precisely the point of the three social organizations I have mentioned you, to say, even when I'm the cause, the consequence effects, it is not me. So the banks, for example, today, the bank said, I'm the cause of millions of debts, right? But the effects, you have to pay. You, the members of the society, you, the people of the state, you pay for the debts of the bank. Because the bank will say, okay, we have been the cause. We caused the millions of debts by giving false money, by giving false credits. But the fact that we now have debts, this is not our fault. This is not my consequence. The fact we could say today is the situation. People say, I'm the cause, and you are the effect. There's no consequences. No? When I do something wrong, There's no consequences at all. To give you a proof, 2009 was published a book, two proofs, by a German writer, Ferdinand von Schirach. The book is called Guilt. And all the stories, which are true stories, because the writer is an advocate, all the stories in the book tell stories about when something happens and there was no guilt. For example, the first story in the book, and the point is, this book called Guilt is a million bestseller. In Germany 1 million, in the world 10 millions. So the people like this book. And the reason is people like this book because it erases the idea of guilt. It erases the idea of, it destroys the idea of cause and effect. I give you one example of the 20 stories in the book, which is a primary bestseller. The book starts with a story. There was a Bavarian musician company playing and drinking. Then comes a female waitress with a beer. Then there's 20 people of this orchestra raped the girl. So the girl was nearly dead, then was saved in the hospital. Now comes a writer, he is at the same time advocate, says we have a wonderful possibility in the law that when everybody is silent, then nobody is responsible. So he said to the 20 people, don't say a word. I make the story a little bit short, it's a little more complicated, but the fact was that even when we had this dead girl raped by 20 people, nobody was responsible. They all went free. You understand? This is not an exception. This is the idea. Today, there is a cause but no effect. So when you have, now we will reverse it, when there is no effect, there was no cause. So when even when somebody is dead, you can say at the end, this person is not dead, this person was not raped. Practically speaking, we don't have effects, and there are no effects, we have no cause. I'll give you another example for sports, maybe you understand it better. When there was a competition 5 years ago between Ireland and France, it was a competition about participating in the World Mastership of soccer. Ireland is not very important, like a girl. France is very important. Millions of visitors to television. In Senate was, normally it is like this, that people need 90 minutes to make a soccer game. So it was prolonged to 93 minutes. And in the very last minute of the prolongation, which was already strange, there was France made a goal. The goal was made by hands. So he did it with hands. And everybody saw it. Even the man who made the goal with the hands, Henri Thierry, he said, I did it with my hand, not with the feet. So he confessed that the fact the goal had the wrong cause. But the rule says, but the judge did not see it. So even when everybody protested, even the guy who didn't protest, Pierre, the goal was correct. You see now, you have the complete annihilation of guilt and cause, because not only is important the effect. And this is the situation today, to give you some examples. And therefore, on the other side, we have what is my idea of responsibility. When James Joyce was offered a Nobel by a young writer, the young writer said, Mr. Joyce, what do you think about this Nobel? And he was very eager to know his opinion. And then Joyce asked him, can you say you're responsible, this is a true story, can you say you're responsible for every sentence in your Nobel? And the guy said, the young writer, no, I can't. The same Joyce said, you see, in my work, Feeling and Zweig, I'm responsible for every syllable. This is the demand of an artist, a really true modern artist. This is where, if you want, we can continue more to this question. A thermodynamic model of responsibility would include many, many interesting things. For example, the question of prizes and competition. Today, we speak all the time about competition, even in art. We have rankings, we have markets, or we make all the time competitions and rankings, etc. And very early, it was discovered very, very early that this is a wrong idea of conviviality, no? Of living together. It's a correct way. And therefore, in the 68, it's this historical revolutionary moment which today is fighting against. People like Jean-Luc Godard said, finish like Cannes. No competition. We don't want these kind of festivals where we get prizes. We don't want this competition. So the idea was to say, do not compete. Because if you make competition, like a soccer game, the seduction is too big, so to betray. It's the answer, even when you betray publicly, on evidence, even you confess, I betray, you are a winner. Therefore, the root of the evil is competition. And I give an example. When people started first to realize there's something wrong with competition, the Bible has 10 commands. Most of the commands are not important. Not at all. But one command, 2 commands are very interesting. Very strange commands. These very strange people never thought about it. Because the command says, doesn't say, you should not envy a wife. You should not desire a wife. This is not the command. So the command says, maybe it's some of you will remember what the Bible says. I don't think so. Do you remember? So the sentence number 7 is not, you should not desire a wife. The sentence is, you should not desire the wife of your neighbor. That's strange. Because it shows precisely the competition. So you should not desire the wife of your neighbor. So it means you should not enter into competition with your neighbor to win the love of his wife. Then it goes even further, which is not important. You should not desire the house and the animal of your neighbor. So it's again what we can call today mimetic desire. You desire what the other has. This is the mimesis. What is a very important strategy in art, that we are representing the world, art, most of the art, most of the media is mimesis of the world. So besides this is an interesting idea, you should not make mimetic desire. You should not desire what another guy or another person or a woman desires. You should not desire what another person has. And these ideas you find, unfortunately, very rare. There are not many artists like James Joyce who say, I'm responsible. Most artists today, following Duchamp, say, I'm not responsible. So I would suppose, as the effects, as the critics, the effects as the market, the effects as the collectors, etc., not the artists themselves. So we have nature's equation. What can we do in art, even in the art of the moving image, to follow a thermodynamic model, where cause and effect come together again? This is the abstract question, maybe the final answer.
I think all the English members of the panel should look at the question on the back side. There's because I think, yes, you have the first question. Also ich sage es auch nochmal in Deutsch, beträgt das Bewegtbild noch Inhalte und wenn ja, wohin, ist Verantwortung ein relevanter Begriff in der künstlerischen Praxis. And did you have the English version? Yeah. Okay. Kerry, I would say you are, and Mario, you should perhaps answer this first question. Please, what is your meaning about it?
Wait. Does the moving image still carry relevant content? Yes.
I will say now more than ever, and that what used to be called outsider art, or in other practices is called outsider art, for us is the web. And that there's a broader audience than ever for this work. There's a broader understanding of the vocabulary because people are using it themselves in things that they make for personal reasons as well as
because we're doing this for ourselves. All the people that are sitting here, I'm totally sure that they are against war, against all this frustration that we have around the world. But the people who should be addressed with this work, they will never watch about this work. this is my doubt. Does everything goes happens in a parallel world?
First, I would like to confirm what Barbara and Mario have said. The moving image is even damned to have content. And this is a problem, because abstract films, just purely abstract videos, have very limited possibilities. So most of the work in film and video has to do with the world, it's representative, it shows the world. But now we have the critics who have slowly learned what is modern art. But most critics and journalists, modern art is abstract art. So therefore for a long time they said we don't want video art because video art shows us the world. This is not the point. They still refuse to see the world. And what they do, they refuse the work who shows the world. This is precisely what you're afraid of. That people are not refusing the media work, they refuse the work presented by the media. So it affects, and therefore it's very clear what Barbara said, the biennalism is wonderful, but the critics who have prejudice about what art should be, how it should look like, they say we refuse to accept this as art. But these things are the symbols, these art historians, art critics have not learned the first important sentence ever, because there's a book, the most popular and most famous book about art history is by Ernest Gombrich. The book is called Art History. But they have never read or understood the first sentence. The first sentence says, closely considered, there is no art history, only artists. You see, and now also we try to prescribe the artists what to do. But the fact is, we should not follow art history, we should follow artists. Right? And this was, in the sense that it was artists, and the artists in working media, they can nothing else do than to show content. And actually they show, as you said correctly, more content than ever, and more relevant content than ever. Because in television, in my opinion, television should see no content at all. My definition of television like this: they show you entertainment, interrupted by nonsense, interrupted by shit. And this is content too, not the content what you're interested in. And the television says, we love to entertain you. And we would say, we love to show you content. We can't do anything else in media. That's the other thing that this question is very correct. We need to say yes.
Yeah, but I have my daughter. I have kids and I have grandchildren, and I see how they play the video games and all this what they've done, and it's very.
The majority of people who refuse content, the majority of people who refuse the work as it is naturally enormously. And so I understand your anxiety and you're afraid, but nonetheless, in art we still have Alice, we have many people who support us.
Yeah, no, what I like to continue is that my fear and my doubts are if we have more and more this art that is always talking about this violence in our world, that this is also a kind of consuming from us. We consume it and we don't really shop about anymore. And I think this is my personal opinion. Perhaps I'm totally wrong. But I like to find out, and I like to find the right questions and answers, why it's so important today always to talk about these political situations all over the world. And it's your work, it's done with the media in art. I think for me it's still an art work, but sometimes I see so much art, what is really documentary, what I don't like to see in the context of art. I would see in the documentary, in the television or whatever. And this is the question what I am following at the moment, where we are going.
Yeah, but in video, so documentary in television is more or less fake. It's a narrated fake. But in fact in art itself we have a wonderful new tendency of a new way of being documentary. What is called, for example, found footage. So as a reason how found footage is a montage can tell you an undiscovered truth. So in fact, we should be very careful to judge documentary. What most people see is not artistic documentary. For example, within Karlsruhe, we have a film department, but we select purposely only documentary filmmakers from this new genre, because fiction filmmaking is done so often, taught so often, so many schools, like Ludwigstour. The Ludwigstour say teach you this kind of Hollywood fiction, which is fine too for people to make a profession, they have money, and they make money, but we, the opposite, seem to be more artistic. So we support artistic documentary filmmaking here, where also makes, for example, your work is more or less a new kind of documentary.
It's a great honor, thank you.
And then I select in the also, I think you are museums curator, Tassia, she is doing a video biennale, and you are the artist, and you collector, and you are a museums person, and you are a museums person too. What are the reasons why you collect this, or why you choose works, what you show in the museum? What is your criteria?
First of all, I may be the voice crying alone in the wilderness for TV. As a moving image curator, there's something about crap TV that I feel I have to know. It's part of the world, it's part of my world, and it's part of something that I enjoy sometimes. Maybe guiltily. If you want to ask what I'm looking for or what I select, it's very clear cut. There are two categories for me when I'm looking. Things that are necessary and things that are not necessary.
This is a kind of responsibility, precisely.
Can you call my mother after this and tell her that
Yeah.
I have a responsibility?
Yeah.
And under necessary, I say it's something that's transformative, that after I look at it, I'm really changed in the way that I look at things. I have a very simple expression. I say, yeah, that's what I came for. So it's not so intellectualized as my esteemed artist friend here has expressed. It's when all dimensions are integrated flawlessly. It's something that's aware of the artistic past, but also moves it forward. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, which Richard's work is like. My second thing that I know when it's necessary is it lingers. Sometimes I'm absorbing something and it's great, but a few hours later, a few days later, no. His work's been haunting me since Venice. And in this tsunami of images and information that we're drowning in, things float to the top. Another thing, of course, is the use of time. When I started in this business, I also work in film programming. A film critic and professor said to me, the most precious thing we possess is the time we have left on Earth. And it's your responsibility to choose wisely, because your choices are impacting how someone spends this precious, most precious of commodities. And I was about 19 when I started this, so it was a bit heavy, but it's something that I really keep in mind when I'm selecting. I look for things that stretch the power of the medium. It should be poetry, it should be a position, it should have a perspective, and because of what I do with it, has a take on technology. And I think, again, to be really cheesy and generic, there's a Dr. Dolittle movie and novels that I hope you're familiar with, and they have a character. It's a double-headed llama called a Push Me, Pull You. And I think in all the works that I look for, that's the gut that I wanted to push and pull, how I look at things, and move me like a boat on the tide, in and back and forth. And is it comparable to what I know, and is it incomparable in terms of everything I know? Like all work, I talk to students a lot, and they have this, yeah, if I can just finish my video. And I said, no. Your work needs to be comparable with Praxiteles, Michelangelo, Vermeer, Cézanne, and because it's media, it needs to take into consideration everything that's ever existed in media, television, film, everything. And as Manuel said, in 50 years, will it stand up? Because we're acquiring work, and I will know I have succeeded if in 50 years, in our museum, once the artist is no longer alive, they're allowed to deaccession the work. The money goes to buy a new work. So if way in the future the things that I acquire are still in the collection because they have this power, then I think, I won't live to know if I've been a success. So I liked your description of the art, because that's what I feel I'm doing, and I think Manuel, as a collector, feels like I'm doing. I'm selecting the 2x2 animals to go, and for the people who come after me, see what it was. And I do think there's the capability for meaningful, strong political art, and I do find it to be the most important, even though the definition of it keeps expanding and shifting.
Okay, thank you. Tassia, you have a different position. You have to create a festival. And what is very important for me for the biennial is we have in Germany so many festivals. We have the Short Film Festival in Oberhausen, we have the Videonale, we have EMAF, we have Werkleitz. We have so many festivals in Germany. And I think this is so important that it's necessary to have this biennial. But in the meantime, during the biennials, it's very important that we have this running. And what is your vision to develop the Videonale for the future?
Well, that's a question still to answer, actually. But I think I would like to keep it alive, because actually it's a question you really have to ask yourself when you're doing a festival, which exists like Biennale does for over 30 years now, which had a really great relevance when it was founded in the 80s, because we're talking about moving images, there were any platforms for moving images in these times. But actually nowadays, 30 years later, when moving images entered museums and the art spaces and are practically everywhere, I think you really have to ask yourself the question as a festival maker, so where is my relevance to the festival? And it's really hard to answer this question, but I think because there are so moving images are everywhere and are like in so many different, are present in so many different formats, and the artists doing moving images reflect those different ways of working with the moving images in their works. I think it's still important to talk about all these different, these different directions in the moving image art world. What you talked about more critically, that there's so much documentary approaches in moving image works. I'm not really sure if this is something to be that critical about, because I think it's just another approach of artists to reflect upon the documentary film making and to add it another level. Artists don't use the documentary filmmaker or the documentary style like filmmakers do, but they reflect the documentary style, and they give it like a detail level to the aesthetics, but also to the content. And I think actually that's very enriching, well, at least for me, to watch and to think about the format, but also to think about the content and the way the content is provided. So, but of course it always depends on the artwork and the single work you're looking at. But for me it's still a way to really reflect about different formats in the moving image. And that's what's happening with the documentary, for example.
Anybody an answer of this?
Have you seen The Act of Killing?
No, not yet.
Oh, I recommend everyone go and watch The Act of Killing.
The Act of Killing?
I don't know who's by it, but it's about. I'm halfway through watching it. It's the most revolutionary documentary I've ever seen. It's completely confusing. Anyway, that's just a suggestion.
Okay. Yeah. Mario, you have, I think the third question is, I can't explain it in English. Can you see this? Can you read it? Ja. Also mehrere Dekaden einer soziologisch und politisch motivierten Film- und Videokunst liegen jetzt hinter uns. Die ziehen einerseits in erster Linie den Kuratoren, weltpolitische Themen im Kunstkontext zu behandeln, oder ist es ein ureigenes künstlerisches Interesse derartige Themen immer wieder aufzugreifen und dann erhält ein Werk echte politische Relevanz. Darüber haben wir ja die ganze Zeit schon gesprochen und trotzdem I ask this question again. Would you like to answer?
I'm not a curator, and I'm not an artist, but I work with curators and I work with artists because I think it's a triangle that works really well when the motivation and the responsibility is equal with what everyone is trying to achieve. I think it goes hand in hand. I think a curator, has an idea for a show and knows work that artists have done, which are relevant to the theme of the show. And also, there are times where a curator will talk to an artist and say, I'm working on this. What do you have? What are you working on that might fit into the concept? So, time, the decades have gone behind us, but I think it still goes on. It's not, I don't think it will ever be finished.
Okay, Mario, you have provided us some examples from, I think, yes. Mario has provided us with some examples from art, what they own in the museum, and he likes to talk about the content that we are speaking.
First of all, I wanted to follow up with what we heard before, and I think
it's not working.
We should. No, I think
Yeah.
it's working, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I have to say, maybe that I don't want to overrate the curatorial aspect. In my opinion, there are too many curators around, and sometimes, as we know, if an invitation is on your desk, the name of the curator is in bigger letters than the name of the artists. So I was always a skeptic about that a little bit. And I see my role in the museum as a head of collection less as a curator, but more as a partner for the artists. The MMK is very well known for commissioned works from the beginning. If it's Lothar Baumgarten or Bill Viola with A Stop in Mind, or just to name a few. I think this is a very special aspect always, or was a special aspect, to invite artists for a commissioned work. So most of the works, even the igloo by Mario Metz, is very site-specific and very place-specific, because Mario Metz did this specific igloo for the MMK in Frankfurt, and so many artists did. And and I think to follow what Barbara said, I totally agree what you mentioned as your position. And I just wanted to add, because I'm maybe very old-fashioned, that the visual quality is extremely important for a work. And I'm definitely not specialized in video or media art, definitely not. I'm the head of the complete collection. So a work of art has to fit in the MMK in the context of the collection. Let's say with paintings by Luc Tollemans, with sculptures by Bob Gober, with whatever. Many of you, I think, most of you, will know the collection quite well. And from this very wide range of video and film works in the collection since 23 years, you will remember Rosemary Trockel, I mentioned Bill Viola, Namjoon Paik's One Candle, and one of the most recent acquisitions was a commissioned work as well by Vanessa Beecroft, and most recently we acquired all the films by Jack Smith. Just to mention a few, I thought together with Anita, and especially refers to the wonderful collaboration with Barbara and the Hirschland Museum and Sculpture Garden in Washington, some few examples of acquisitions of the last 10 years we did. And I start with Douglas Gordon, Play Dead, Real Time. I'm very sure all of you know the work. And even as in our museum history, it's a very unique, was a very special acquisition because we acquired a piece together with the Hirschhorn Museum and Sculpture. Without this collaboration and the enormous input of Douglas, it would have been impossible to acquire such an installation for the MLK. I just want to make some few notes on 4 works of art. You saw the life-size projection, which activates you as a visitor in this asynchrony and real time. Some people in the first moment think it's slow motion, but it's really real time, like the title says, Play Dead, real time. And Minnie, this female elephant from a zoo in Connecticut, you can see in a white cube. It was the Gagosian Gallery in New York. She had a very special license to come for one night from the zoo in Connecticut, just for one night, with a special transport in the gallery of the Gagosian Gallery. And on the license, it was written, "It's a very heavy sculpture by Richard Serra." So that was the only possibility to bring an elephant one night in New York City. Especially, maybe you can show the next one.
Yeah.
And the next one. Especially this little monitor with the eye of the elephant, I think takes very much the emotional contact for the viewer. And like Minnie, this elephant who is getting up and lying down and play dead for a moment. It's a kind of choreography in the space, and you as a visitor are moving in this choreography as well. There is no one point of view for you to see this multi-screen installation. And as we know, Douglas Gordon, who is very well known for his use of historical film material, like a reservoir in most of his works, in this case, we can learn that, and you can find it on YouTube, I can recommend to look up. There is a very, very short film clip in black and white from 1903, which documents an experiment in the Luna Park in Coney Island, outside of New York City. At that point, it was an amusement park, very, very popular, and they had a group of elephants there to attract the visitors. And but one elephant, his name was Topsy, was quite a very wild one, and in 3 years he killed 3 men. So Coney Island, the amusement park, decided to kill these elephants. And they decided not to shoot the elephant, but to bring the elephant on a death penalty. So what was easier or closer than to ask Mr. Edison, who just invented the electric light bulb in 1879, and in close development, the electric chair was founded in 1888, and Mr. Edison decided to kill the elephant this way, to put the animal on an electric platform with high voltage. And in this tiny little, small, short, black and white video from '93, you can see how the elephant suddenly starts burning from the feet on this electrified platform, and then he collapses. So, the work Play Dead, Real Time by Douglas Gordon refers, of course, to this historical film clip and brings the whole theme of the death penalty, which is around in America until today, let's say, to the present. Ja, das nächste bitte. Arnold Meek, the Dutch artist, from Arnold Meek we acquired Middleman from 2001. It's a 21-minute long loop with no sound. By the way, the elephant is also without sound. The camera is gliding through the set of a stock exchange. Everything and everyone seems artificial. The artist Arnold Meek produced this work right before September 11, but most of the visitors in our museum astonishingly connect the images with this tragic event. The film was taken in one take, in a kind of staged set with actors, most of them very close friends and collaborators of the artists. The camera just moves, stops, and zooms back and forth in a quite complex structure. The site-specific installation in the architectural frame, which is given by the artist, shows the images almost life-size, also very similar to the elephant. An allegory of the crisis and the collapse. Maybe we have a look to the next one. An allegory of the crisis and the collapse in our globalized society and the disoriented individual in a kind of catatonic shock is the ongoing theme in the artist's work. And I think the last one. Arnold Meek lives in Amsterdam, where one of the first stock exchange was found in 1611. So I think it was very natural for Arnold Meek to pick up this theme, which is a kind of history painting now. I don't know if this is the right English expression for historian image. Yeah, the next one. Yeah, the third example is by the Belgian artist David Clabaut, with the title Vietnam 1967, near Dupont from the year 2001. It's just the loop is just 3 minutes 39 seconds, and the piece has also no sound. The subtitle sounds is a reconstruction after Hiromichi Mine, a Japanese photographer working for Magnum, who took a photo a year before he died in 1967 in Vietnam, in this landscape near Dupont. We can see in the original black and white photo from 1967 a twin-engine transport caribou aircraft crashed after being hit by American artillery on August 3rd, 1967 in the landscape in Ha Pan near Dupont, accidentally shot down in friendly fire. The images by David Clabaut were taken 33 years later in November 2000, at the end of the monsoon season, when the sunlight and the clouds provide a natural theatrical light over the valley. You could say it's a moving still image. And he manipulated the combination of a still image and filmic images, because he mounted the historical photo by Hiromichi into his video, which he took in the year 2000. And the one of you who saw the piece, what we see here is exactly this film still image, because in the work by David Clabaut, the airplane never clashes on the landscape. It stays in the sky. Yeah, he found the original black and white photo in a book with the title Requiem, which was published for the works of photographers who died in the Vietnam War. and he's overspanning this enormous time arc from 1967 to the present. The landscape is the landscape of the present in Vietnam, but it's exactly the original landscape where this famous black and white documentary photo happened in 1967. Yeah, and the last example, maybe one more image of the last example is by Sarah Morris, one of the most recent acquisitions in the context of the Sarah Morris exhibition we did in the year 2008. It's a 35mm film, which lasts 86 minutes in color and sound. Beijing is a feature-length film filmed before and during the Olympic Games in Beijing 2008, during a period of dynamic and dramatic changes in this city. An extreme manifestation of power and astronomical amounts of money absorbed and produced by such an event. Next one, please.
Okay.
Sarah Morris explores both the psychology of the contemporary city architecture and of the Olympic Games as an event and their participations, and of the state representation. The next one. The aesthetic between commerce and politic in a mass media event of today. And the next. Just some other stills. A suggestive soundtrack by Liam Gillick drives the images. And I was always surprised that, you know, in a museum context where you go from space to space and there is so much to see, normally you don't take the time of 86 minutes to see the full film. I have to blame on myself in situations like that. I'm not very patient. But it was very surprising that many visitors really sit down and really watching the complete film of 86 minutes. The film is a kind of surreal portrait of an authoritarian state and turbo-capitalism of today. A society between self-representation and control mania. Yeah, just the last, maybe 2 images.
Okay, is it okay? Yes. I think we should take now the opportunity, if we have Richard here on the panel, that he can talk in the model like mine, talk a little bit about your inspiration to doing this incredible work, what we saw now.
Right. What specifically would you like to know?
No, what your motivation is. You are working since a long time about all these conflict areas in the world, and it's very dangerous to go to these places and make these films.
Maybe I could address responsibility within the enclave, because it's actually quite an irresponsible piece in many respects. And I guess it needs a bit of contextualization. So there are a number of battle scenes in the film. It's a 40-minute piece, 39 minutes, 25 seconds. I apologize, it's very long. But it has many sort of episodes within the structure, and it loops, so you don't really know where the beginning and end are if there aren't any. But there are different types of battles. One is a simulated battle by my rebels. They're all different types of rebels. I visited many enclaves to make the enclave. So there is our first transgression of responsibility, because I'm confusing people, I'm confusing a narrative of great complexity into a single sort of mythic, fictive space. But so the first battle is this, in the edit, is a simulated battle where these Myanmar rebels, who are not terribly well trained, they do this rather carnivalesque enactment of a battle, and it's almost a ludicrous, absurd kind of a battle. And then later there's a real battle where it was caught in a heavy bombardment, artillery, and machine gun fire for about 12 hours. And we didn't get a chance to shoot off much film, because we're trying to save our lives, but we did manage to record it with a recorder. And for that, we simply turned the lights off. So there's no visuals at that stage, because it really doesn't need it. And then later there's it's a scene down by a river, which is shot almost with a sort of very hyperbolic style, almost sort of very cinematic. Quite a bit like Apocalypse Now, for example. Apocalypse Now, the film by Francis Ford Coppola, and it's about this tension and these guys going to a river and they're aiming their guns and pretending to fire them across the river at this unknown enemy. It turns out there is no enemy, so this sort of deflates this tension. And then right after that, we suck the sound out of this heavy bass line. I'm sorry, this is a little bit lengthy, but at that stage, there's heavy bass happening and it's insect drones that are quite high-pitched and sort of annoying. And a very heavy colour palette. And we suck the sound out from the bass up towards the treble until it's entirely silent. And then we've lost this heavy colour palette. We lose the sort of cinematic contrast that the look of the film becomes very, very tame. And then in the last sequence, in my mind, there's a silent sequence that's about 5 minutes length, and it shows an actual battle, which we were sadly in the middle of, and we managed to get some footage of the fall of Goma, which is a historic event. And we shot it, we deliberately shot it quite very tame. In other words, we weren't using a steady cam. We were entering the sort of style of photojournalism, the way the received generic conventions of the way war ought to be represented according to the Magnum approach. And so this was this deflation of this very, very intense, heightened, claustrophobic, but ultimately constructed, simulated, and unreal kind of representation of war, and remove that to reveal a different style. So what we're trying to do is to collapse. Really, I have two subjects. But Congo is one, but really what I was trying to address, I was trying to use Congo to address representation of war itself. And there again, there's another transgression, responsibility to use actual events, historic events, in order to form a space to meditate on aesthetics. This is deeply irresponsible as well. So anyway, yeah, I'd like to just finish there before I bury myself.
I think now, after you finish this work, you have now this experience, after it is shown on many places. It's not only shown in Venice, it's also shown now in Palazzo Strozina in Florence, and now here. What makes this with you, the experience? How can you start a new work? I think this has a big influence, your success and your experience with the public. It takes lots of impression.
Well, that's
what you are working on.
Getting personal now.
How can you
God
start?
knows, if anyone has any good ideas, let's talk about it later.
Has anybody a question to Richard? Otherwise I would, no, I haven't.
I would like to give a comment to the comments of Barbara Kramer to the films by Douglas Gordon. To work out some kind of criteria. The work of Douglas Gordon, as you know, is always related to things which already exist. So this is what we normally call post-modern aesthetics, when you replace representation by reference. So it means when your work is not related to the world, because when your work is related to artworks that already exist, be it in the world, be it the Searchers of John Ford and Laus and Thomas Andreasen. Now the problem is says these people, when they relate to work, they do it mostly in a way which we call depoliticized or decontextualized. This is not a difficult problem, because in fact, the film by Edison was done as a commercial competition, because it was a competition with Nikola Tesla. Because at that time, Edison was on the side of Gleichstrom, that means CD. And Tesla was on the side, he invented the Wechselstrom, AC. And then on this was the one, it was a very important, very heavy decision. Where should the world go? In the direction of Tesla or the direction of Edison? And initially, it is the right choice to select Tesla. Our system today is a Tesla system. But therefore, he showed, and this was now the great failure of Edison, he manipulated the electricity and said, you see, the electricity of Tesla can kill an elephant. It was a propaganda film. And all this commercial capitalist, political propaganda does not appear in the work of Robert Douglas. And this is precisely the reason why museums like it. I dislike it, because perhaps this and this is precisely, I dislike people who decontextualize, depoliticize the work, even if they would give them a new meaning. But since the new meaning is something like, oh, this is about penalty. And this for me said is a kind of grandiose but a little bit banal content. And so therefore I would like to discuss a discussion about the criteria of selection, as you already mentioned. Because when you take a look and make research that I did, how many artworks have been saved, conserved the last 1,000 years? And this number you the highest number is 10%. So it means 90% of artworks disappeared. And this will be valid even for our period the same. To give an example, today we have all the visual culture, the media work. Here we have besides this moral responsibility. Who is responsible to preserve media work? We all know that media works degrade after 20 years. And there's so enormous amount of production, all the work, media works, since half a century. But two are the people who can really connect and preserve and conserve these people. You and some others. But most of this work already now disappears. It means when I made a research, and my research was that when normally in art 10% are saved, in media art less than 1% are saved. This shows that we are not very good guardians, not we three, but normal museum curators are not very good guardians because there is no responsibility about the work of art. And we need, therefore, new criteria of selection. And we cannot take the selection principle from painting or sculpture, because they are the wrong principles. Therefore, the question Barbara Rose and Mario, that's what you wanted to show us, Mario Rama, we have to find very complex, difficult criteria of selection. One of the most important for me is to say the Arch Noel is a wrong example, because it is very restrictive selection, only one family. And since the writer of the story knows that this was very unjust, he calls, in the story he said, I select Noah because he is a representative of justice. He called him der Gerechte. So he called it, my selection principle to be just, because he knew precisely that it was not just. And the only thing what we can do is to have correct principle of selection is that we know every selection is too much closed, is too selective. Then we have to be one possibility to say we know there are other systems of selection. And what we can do is to say our system of selection is open, that it can be connected to other systems of selection. This is what we call evolution and progress. And this is our task.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I think that's the idea of how to select, I think, is I'm looking for something specific enough to be true, insightful enough to go beyond truism, and broad stroke enough to be the truth, which I find in Richard's work. It transcends the specifics that you've described and goes to another dimension by bringing together all these various things. The coloration has this strange thing in the beginning that is almost like a day-glow fairy tale is the signal to me at first, and yet it's mythic and magical, and that's the signal. But then there are eyes and faces and situations that are hard-bitten, that are icy, that are threatening, and that you don't often see in work that we should see more, that is political, that sort of gets you there. There's music